Welcome to Play by Players, an MLSPA podcast. This show is brought to you by the players and is all about the players, both past and present, who have plied their trade in MLS. You'll hear about each player's journey into the game, their careers and life after the game, on the field and off. It's all on the table. Now here's your host, former MLS player, Bobby Boswell.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Play by Players. Today we are joined by one of my former teammates and also someone that I call a friend. He has represented the U.S. men's national team, both at the senior level and the junior level. He's an MLS All-Star. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate. He was a Defender of the Year candidate. He's played over 200 games in MLS and will soon break the 20,000 minute mark, which is a pretty big milestone. He is a current captain for DC United. He goes by many nicknames. They call him Bernie. They call him Burns. Some people call him Steve-O. Some people can't pronounce his last name and call him Birnbaum. But to me, he is simply Steven. So please welcome to the podcast today, Steve Birnbaum.
My man, Bobby Boswell. Good to see you, buddy.
What's going on, man? I had a bunch of jokes for your beard, and you trimmed it up for us. For those that are watching, they get to see it.
In the front, it's all business, but I did leave a little lettuce in the back for you. I'm trying to let the thing grow.
That's like a California in the front, a little Florida in the back.
That's exactly it. Not necessarily. I don't associate with Florida, but that's all right.
Well, before we start getting into your past, I am going to hit you with some hard questions. Well, really, it's just one hard question, and it's early on. And first, for those that don't know, I have never gotten upset. People always ask me, I know you played at a junior developmental salary. When you see these new salaries in the league, do you get upset by it? And my answer has emphatically always been no. I love my time in the league. I love the opportunity I was given. The only thing in preparing for this podcast, for those that don't know, Steven has had a lot of endorsement deals over the year. And I learned that you have a Budweiser endorsement, and that is the focal point of this question. You have worked with Budweiser, and as a former teammate and a friend, someone who knows that I love an ice cold Budweiser, why have you never sent me or bought me a Budweiser before?
You know what? That was so long ago. That was like a one-off thing. It was a Budweiser, it was for the Major League Baseball All-Stars or something like that. I didn't even get a pack. I'm gonna be honest. I was a little bummed out about it, but
okay. I can deal with that answer. And this wasn't going to ruin our friendship. It was just maybe going to set us back a month, for me to get over it. But I'm happy with that. Enough about me. And that was kind of like a sly way to humble brag about you. But let's talk about you. And we kind of joked about California and Florida. I always say I'm from the East Coast, and you always say I'm from the best coast.
That's right, baby.
Let's talk a little bit about where you're from. You're an Irvine guy.
Yeah.
For those that don't know about Irvine, tell everyone in your own words, elevator pitch. What's Irvine, California like?
People know it as the OC. It's inside the OC. Everyone, who didn't live there watched the show and, associates it. That's not really what it is. It's kind of inland from the beach. But I claim Orange County because it sounds way cooler. It sounds a lot cooler. But Irvine was a bubble. Grew up there my entire life and played multiple sports growing up. And it was just it was kind of super suburban area, and I was pretty much sheltered my entire
Well, you talk about playing other sports. Would you say you have described yourself, and I'll agree with this, that you're an athlete. Would you say, in Irvine, you tell people you played basketball and baseball, but you never mention that you played lacrosse and volleyball like your mother did, right? You played those in high school?
Yeah, I did. Growing up, I played every sport. Probably, I played flag football and stuff like that too, but I played probably more baseball than soccer growing up. And then kind of in California, because everything's year round, you have to choose basically when you get to high school at 14 because you're playing travel ball or whatever with club soccer. And so I just chose soccer at that point because I loved running around and I felt like I could impact the game on both sides of the balls, whereas baseball, you kind of didn't really get to do much. And you kind of sat around and it was boring for me at times. I look back and I'm like, man, I miss baseball just sitting around doing nothing. But yeah, and then in high school, I ended up playing a ton of volleyball and lacrosse. I love lacrosse to get to do the same things as soccer, except hit people.
Well, I'm sure you were pretty good at that. What you also didn't mention, which not a lot of people know, is you're a pretty good skateboarder. I'm assuming California, you had to surf a lot.
Yeah.
And you're pretty decent. You got me into slacklining. Tell people what's a slack. Was that high school or was that more college?
That was the Berkeley days. That was the hippie Berkeley days. But yes, I did skateboard. I mean, you saw me skateboard into RFK plenty of times.
And have you graduated to an adult thing like a bike now, or do you still risk your life every day riding a skateboard?
I have probably stopped skateboarding like ever since I had ankle surgery. So I haven't skateboarded since then. I'm making a conscious decision until I retire to skateboard.
Okay, and just remember, agents and GMs and owners listen to this. So he has not been skateboarding since he left college.
That's exactly yeah, right. Yeah, check that. No, but in California, we grew up doing everything, like getting everywhere was either on a skateboard or a bike. And then there were days where we would wake up in the morning, go to the beach, and then, head to the mountains that day and snowboard. So it was an action-packed lifestyle in Orange County. And I miss California. I love it. There's just a ton to do there, and you can't beat the weather.
Well, you talked about high school, and I want to get into your decision at 14 to become a professional soccer player. But you went to Northwood High School. That's a relatively newer high school for, on the podcast, we always talk about the high school. You were a Timberwolf, is that right?
A Timberwolf, baby. Yeah, through and through.
A Timberwolf. It was for those that don't know, it was a blue ribbon school, much like the high school I went to in Tampa, Florida. But you also had a Grammy signature school, meaning this was musicians. Maybe that was after you left, because I've heard you sing.
You don't want that. No one wants to hear that.
And it's interesting. It also said it was located kind of near an avocado farmer, right in the middle of an avocado farm.
Yes, there was. Yeah, it's basically back in the hills. We're like a little inland from the beach, and so there's just a bunch of hills and brush back there, and there were farms everywhere in that area. But yeah, going back to choosing soccer, it was basically I got called up to youth national teams, and I realized, oh my gosh, like, some of the guys that I'm playing with at 16 were already professional soccer players. And I didn't even think that like that was really a possibility at that point in my life. And I'm like, man, I'm hanging and playing soccer with these guys who are basically already professional soccer players. And from that, like that moment on as a freshman, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to put all I can into soccer. And then basically I committed to Berkeley as a sophomore in high school.
No, you're getting ahead of yourself here.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I wasn't done. We were going to go through the notable alums. You made the list. Congrats. You were on that list. There was Young the Giant was like a band that I liked that was on there. There's a bunch of like because it's a young school, it's like one person from like every sport ever. But no one that
I'm still second on that list. I know who's number one. It's okay.
Well, I was going to say there's one other soccer player, and it's Benny Fellhaber. Are y'all? And I'm sorry, Benny, if I butcher your name. I've known you my whole professional career, and I still can't say it. Are y'all friends? Like, did coming up? Did you know him, or was he just too like illustrious at that point?
I mean, when I was in high school, he was like kind of taking off, and his career was thriving. So he was pretty big time when I was in high school, and I looked up to him and wanted to be where he was. But as I graduated and went to college and kind of came back, there would be pickup games, and we would kind of get to know each other that way. And
man, you're stealing my later material.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so you do know him, and he was nice to you because all the guys I know from California, when I was in the national team, they were all like they bullied me, and Benny was I'd say Benny was one of them, and Sasha Kleshin. So you were one of the few nice guys from California to me when we met. So I just want to thank you for your friendship.
I kind of had to be. You were the older guy, the captain.
Listen, you didn't have to be. You just were. Let's talk about you talked about committing your sophomore year. I would say high school was so easy for you that you actually you graduated early?
I did graduate a semester early. Yeah.
Oh, it was just a semester. It wasn't a full year.
No. I'm not that smart.
Because I was wondering, because you were a little bit older when you came to the league. I was like, how long were you in college? We don't have to go there yet.
I was a lot older.
You kind of jumped ahead. You went national team, you went college, but you are an interesting story because, and getting ready for this, I knew a ton about you, but going through, it looks like there's a lot of clubs in California that claim that Stephen Birnbaum played for them.
Yes.
Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I've got the Irvine Strikers, and you had the Mad Hatter. Don Ebert was your coach there, or one of your coaches, and that now they're Irvine FC, which is in the MLS Next program.
Okay.
Notable alum Christian Ramirez, Bobby Wood, you had Benny again, Johnny Bornstein, Chris Pontius. We threw him in that list for some reason.
I don't know.
And then Chad Marshall, who I think is one of the better center backs to play in the league. Did you see all those guys and where they were having success? And some of those guys you played with, obviously, but some of them were ahead of you. Did you kind of see those guys and think, well, they came from this club and I'm able to go follow in their footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to be in such close proximity. Basically it was a really good club, like where we were. Southern California was a hotbed for soccer, and it was, the level was always really good there. So I started with the Strikers at, I think I was under 9 with their like training program, and basically it was just like with them my entire time, most of the time, until later stages where other teams tried to claim me. But yeah, me and Christian played together for the longest times, and Bobby Wood, and we looked up to all the guys who played before us, and some of those guys went to my high school, but they didn't go pro. But we looked up to a lot of those guys, and a lot of them ended up going to Berkeley as well. So that was kind of the next step for me.
Yeah, and one of the clubs that claimed you, which is it Patadoras?
Patadoras, yeah.
Patadoras, yeah. That's my English.
It's a swan.
They claim you as well. Say they're 7-time national champions. I mean, at any of these clubs in California, I feel like you play. If a club is a club in California for long enough, it will be a national champion. Did you have success when playing for these, or was it just more regional and state cup type things?
Yeah, it was mostly state cup stuff. We went to regional finals with the Strikers a couple times, lost in the regionals, and it was. I call it the show when we were in Orange County, the Premier League, like from under 16 and below. When you were in the Premier League, it was the show, baby. You were in the polo fields, and it was awesome. I mean, it was like a relegation zone. It was the top 10 teams. You went from Premier to Gold to Silver to Bronze, and there were some battles there. I still miss those days. But yeah, then we went to the Pats, and that was my last 2 years of academy, or I guess club soccer. Then I was right before academy started.
Yeah, and that club had that one's dates further back. It had Matt Reese, Danny Califf, Josh Saunders, Maurice Adu, Chance Myers, Luis Gill, and now I guess they started claiming people again. Frankie Amaya, I guess, is in there, but no, it's a pretty impressive alumni group that you're in there with. You kind of hinted at it earlier. A lot of people, especially a lot of pros, are pretty bitter about the ODP process because they felt like, I call it like the chip on their shoulder. I didn't get selected. You, on the other hand, I feel like were identified and you had some success, and am I wrong? You made a face there.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little bitter about it because I felt like I didn't get selected for the ODP state team or even the regional team at that time, when I was really going through that process, and other guys on my team were getting selected. And then randomly I got called into a national team. And it was just like, whoa, like, how did this happen? And so, yeah, I mean, I had that chip on my shoulder because I saw these other guys like passing me by when I thought, I could play with them or I was better. So I was right there with a lot of those guys.
And then you got called in at what age? Because I know you went to 2 different tournaments, as far as I think one was the Milk Cup. You went to Portugal and then you went to Mexico. And were you actually 18 or did you get called in earlier than that?
So the first camp I ever went to I think it was an under 18 camp when I was 16. And it was like a mega camp. It was like 75 guys. And I'll never forget, it was like you just played games and basically tried to get scouted to make this team, the 18 team. And I got scouted, and then they actually, if you did well in the camp, you got to go play with the U20s. And I did really well in the camp. And right from there, they're like, all right, next day we're going to Mexico and playing with the under 20s. And that was with like Josh Lambo and those guys. And so that was like a shock to me. I'd never even been out of the country before. I like,
You named the one guy that's not playing professional soccer. He quit to play football, but that's okay.
yeah, but like he's a famous guy. People know him.
That's,
You know? I'm a
important.
football fan.
That's important to you.
That's exactly.
You named the one NFL player.
That's what I care about, you know? So no, that was like pretty awesome. And then after that, I was getting called in regularly with the under 18 team, and we went to, Portugal and other places like that.
We've had, I think Perry has been on this podcast and or not Perry, Michael Parkhurst talked about the Milk Cup. Tell us what the Milk Cup is for those that don't know.
I actually didn't go with the national team to the Milk Cup. It was a club team from California.
Oh, okay.
Which was amazing. It was like the best experience of my life. We went there, we played in Northern Ireland, and it was just a tournament. You played against all these other clubs from around the world. I think we played a team from Brazil. We played Ipswich. We ended up getting to the finals of that tournament. We were just a club from the United States, so people like didn't think of us as very good or anything like that. And we played Manchester United in the final and ended up losing to them. But it was pretty.
I've got a follow-up question about that, but it's going to come later.
Okay.
No one's going to see it coming at all. But anyway, okay. So you had some success there, and as you hinted to earlier, that was really where you started, I think, saying, okay, I'm getting called up, I'm getting moved up,
Right.
I'm having success, and then you start really believing like I have a real chance to make it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was just one of those things where you see all these other guys and these professionals, playing soccer and succeeding at that level. And had no problem hanging with them. I'm like, all right, well, everything I do now is I'm going to try and be a professional soccer player.
All right. Well, then talk to us about, you were heavily recruited to, at least on the West Coast, the schools that I saw that were, that you've talked about being interested in you. How do you decide, on that process, meaning UCLA, Santa Barbara, Stanford, Indiana? How do you end up deciding to go to Berkeley?
Yeah, I think it was just fit for me. Believe it or not, I was a center midfielder, like in high school and growing up, and kind of a box to box guy, but I mostly just won the ball and passed it to the good players.
He's also saying, believe it or not, for the listeners, he knows that I know he actually played a game or two at holding midfielder in the pros that he was needed. So I'm not shocked at that, but he's saying it for you guys, but keep going.
Yeah. So it was basically it came down to fit and academics. Really wanted to go to a good school that had a good coach, Kevin Grimes, who was kind of a defensive savant, if you want to say. I mean, he kind of breeded a lot of center backs. And the first thing he said to me was, hey, you're going to come here. You're going to start next to AJ Soares. And you're basically going to learn from him and how to play the position. And that's going to be your path to the pros. And from there, and knowing how good of an academic school it was, I was sold basically. I'd gone to other recruiting trips and liked the places, but I wanted to kind of stay on the West Coast and be in California. And this was far enough away from Orange County, from my family, where it was, you could get there on the weekend, but you weren't right next to the home where you felt, too comfortable.
And was Brad Agus there when you were there?
He was not, no.
Okay. So for those that don't know, Brad Agus is Jeff Agus's brother. He recruited me to go to Berkeley out of Florida. But I didn't know that Berkeley, for those that don't know how to spell it, there's an extra E in there. And I have this theory that if you're not smart enough to spell the college name, you probably shouldn't go there and do well academically. But, without going into too much detail, and again, we might scrap this if you're not okay with it, I would just love for you to tell everyone your Keenan Allen story. I
love the story. Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, it was I think it was even my senior year. So I was like, I wasn't top dog on campus, obviously, but I was like, we were having construction done on the soccer facilities, and everything was getting moved kind of, and we were sharing facilities with the football team. And I was on the bench, the training table, about to get taped up or something like that. And Keenan Allen walks up and he's like, hey, yo, get off my table. And I'm like, what? He's like, that's my table, get off. And I was like, I kind of like just hesitate. I didn't know what to say. And the trainer looked at me and was like, get off the table. And I was like, all right, cool. All right. We see who's top dog in the school.
And question, would this affect your decision to draft him in fantasy football?
He has never been on my fantasy football team. no matter how far he's fallen to me. It's okay.
I love it. I love it.
I will draft any other Bear except him right now.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about college. You did talk about coming in as kind of a two-way player, and you get moved to center back. Before we get to your senior year, you played a lot. You had a good freshman year. You were doing great, and then you had a knee injury, and you redshirted. You had injuries before that, and you've had injuries after that. I know you had some head injuries in DC. You have an ankle injury where you had to have 2 surgeries that we kind of talked about earlier. How I loved your outlook on how you looked at injuries, especially that early one in college where it did cause you to redshirt and question if you were going to be able to come back healthy. Can you walk through for the younger people listening to this or people that are dealing with injuries? I think it'd be helpful for them to hear your view of what happens, how you handled being injured.
Yeah, I think it was the one in college really did a number on me because that was my senior year. It was the first game of the season. Basically tore up my MCL. And in college, the season's like 4 months long, 3 months long. And so if you have like a major injury, you're going to have to redshirt or something's going to happen. And I was really expecting to go pro that year. And it was just one of these conversations that I had with my coach at the time. And he was, it was best interest for me and for him, obviously, to redshirt. But he convinced me to come back, and he basically was like, look, you're going to have a good 5th year coming back. But I was devastated at the time. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll just try and go in the draft and see where it takes me. Cause I was ready to graduate at that time. I had all the credits and everything was done. But the best decision was to stay in school for me. And I thank my lucky stars every day that I did, because it helped me realize how to basically overcome adversity, like you said. And it was one of those things where once it was taken away from me, I realized how much I really just loved and enjoyed the game of soccer. And it became a profession for me at that point, because I had basically finished up school. It was basically, I was in the film room with the coaches all the time. I basically became like an assistant coach at that time, because I was an older guy on the team, a captain. And it's like something that's taken away from you, you just grow to love it more. And so I basically just worked with all the players on the team that year, and came back healthy for my 5th year and had a good senior season. But I guess the biggest thing that I looked at, and even in my injuries with DC, you talked about these head injuries, and it was like I was questioning retirement and stuff like that. But for me, it was more of, at that time, I was like, I have to go play soccer. I have to go to trainings. And then after those injuries and all these things, it makes you realize how much you love it. And I changed my mindset, and it was like, I get to go to training. I get to play soccer and do this for a living. And it was like, that completely changed my life right there, because once I switched the mode of I have to I get to, it was just life-changing for me.
I love it. I love it. That was a great answer. Wait, before you got injured, when was the Maccabi World Cup?
World Cup, the Maccabi Pan Am Games.
Yes.
It was.
I call it the Maccabi World Cup.
I love that. I think that was my sophomore year of college.
2012?
Yeah, I guess. No, that was
tell the viewers that don't know what that is, what it is.
Yeah, it was basically the Jewish Pan Am Games. Basically, it was a collaborative thing where all these other countries, these Jewish players from all around the world, basically get together and play in a tournament. And it was down in Brazil, and I was lucky enough to play in it and get to meet some great people. Our coach was Dan Couchman at the time. And he's an assistant coach for LA Galaxy now. And he was also a legend at LA Galaxy, a center back. So I got to learn from him, which is, the best thing ever too. So things kind of fell in my.
You got a silver medal.
We got a silver medal. I think we lost to, I want to say it was Brazil in the final. It was pretty good.
Some home cooking there, huh?
Yeah. The refs weren't on our side that game. I'll say that.
And before we get to your senior year, you played PDL as well, right? And were that was coming back from college during the off season, and that was the Orange County Blue Star. Is that right?
Yeah, Orange County Blue Star. Yeah.
And the alums from this thing, I had to cherry pick a couple. We had Kalen Carr, who was another Cal guy, with Legend. Brad Evans, Jordan Harvey, Kai Kamara, Dan Kennedy. the bullies, the Kleshton brothers, Christian Ramirez, Robbie Rogers, Tyson Wall. And then your main man was on this list. Jurgen Klinsmann was
Yes, sir.
was a participating member of that. Just from the records, and I followed some of the PDL stuff over the years, it doesn't look like y'all were a very successful team. But based on some of the names in that list, y'all were maybe focused on other activities than playing soccer on your off season in college, living in California. Is that?
That's fair to say. I mean, it was one of those things where guys, you didn't really come to practice, and it was just like guys would show up for games just to get a run in, and it would just be like, you'd be like, man, this guy's here today. You're like, oh my gosh, like where did he come from? And we just like throw on the cleats and play, and it was awesome. I mean, a great talent when we played these games, and it was like the perfect way to stay fit during the off season. But at the same time, we didn't really train much, and guys came and went, as they saw fit.
Yeah, and then for those that don't know, California, as far as I know, is the only place. I've heard New York City starting to get there, but there are more guys that live in California that play soccer, and you could essentially at any given time go play in a pickup game in California that has professionals, not just from MLS, but professionals from all over the world. And obviously, you participated in a ton of these games. Would you say that also helped you kind of believe in yourself and getting to play with these guys in the off season, or basically whoever was in LA at the time?
All the time. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. You'd go, like I said, we'd come back for off season break or whatever in the summer, and there'd be a pickup game with like you said, like Benny Feilheimer and Sasha Kleshton. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like what are these guys doing here? And I'm getting to train with them or whatever. And then as you grow up and you get to know more of the guys coming in, like Christian Ramirez would come back. And then every time I go back to California for off season, it's like Aaron Long's there, Christian Roldan. Like there's like a handful of major national team guys like playing pickup soccer. And you're just like, it's a hotbed, and it's a great way to stay fit during the off season. It's a great level anyways.
Well, so we go back to Berkeley now. You come back off your injury. You have an incredible senior year. You were first team All-American. You won a ton of awards. I'm just going to highlight the big ones, and not to say the other ones aren't important. But so your first team All-American. You were a Herman Trophy semifinalist for best player in the country. You actually lit it up on the offensive side as well as the defensive side. Can you tell people what the Peggy Promise is and the reason why you scored so many goals your final year of college?
I forgot I told you about that. Yeah, my mom, first of all, I love a nice cooked steak, by the way. You know that. But my mom would drive up to every home game at Berkeley and be like, hey, if you score a goal, I'm taking you out to a nice steak dinner. And she took me to a lot of steak dinners that senior year. So it was, I loved it. I loved we went to Skates on the Bay every time. It was like this famous restaurant in Emeryville right outside of Berkeley.
Yeah. And when Steven got to DC, I had to humble him a little.
A lot.
I'm from Tampa, Florida, which those that don't realize, Outback Steakhouse was founded down the street from my house in Tampa. So Steve was not judgmental. He would join me at Outback for maybe not a bloomin' onion, but we definitely get a nice rubbery steak from there. And I say that you're a man of the people, Steve. And I'm not saying you lost that with how much you talk about Peacock Cafe or La Diplomat in DC. There's no judgment here, but I just want to say I do miss a good Outback Steakhouse visit with you.
You know what? If I could say something real quick, I remember our first time meeting when I got to DC, and we went to a TGI Fridays, and that was I still remember that. We sat at the bar and had a nice burger, and I was like, this is my guy. And yeah, that I still love going back to. I'm a big chain guy. I still like going to Outback. My wife will still take me to Outback for my birthdays. Trust me.
Yeah, you're a man of the people. That's what Applebee's. We don't really push that too much, but I grew up on that. So you got to go back to remind yourself where you came from.
That's right.
But you kind of got ahead of it there. You talked about DC. Let's just talk about how the season ends. You knew you go to the combine. I heard you got interviewed by everyone and they loved your interviews, which I just think is hysterical that MLS coaches, you got to realize I know most of them. The fact that them and the GMs, who I know most of them, are interviewing college kids as if like they're going to get some insight into their head on how they're going to be professionally. But you do all that, and you know, you wanted to be number one. Talk to me a little bit about what your expectations were going into the draft.
Yeah, it's everyone's dream to get picked number one overall. I mean, the draft was a lot bigger, I think, when we were coming out than it is a little bit now. But it to be even thought of in that light and maybe get picked number one overall was a dream of mine. So I ended up going two. But yeah, DC had the first pick and they ended up trading down and switching with Philly. And so Andre Blake went number one overall. I guess that was a decent pick for them.
I was going to say, we had people on that didn't get picked. I didn't get drafted, so I can bring this up. Number two, it is what it is, but at least the number one is like a true baller.
Yeah, he's the man. No,
yeah, he's an absolute baller. So that's better than, not to say that anyone's a bad pick. It just doesn't work out in some of them. But I know Christian was taken. Your teammate there were talks of him going before you, and I think he ended up in Vancouver, which is not necessarily the best situation for a defender at that point in anyone's career, just because they were leaking goals. But talk a little bit about your idea of coming in. You knew the team was revamped at that point. There's so many. I remember looking at it being like, I have no idea if I'm going to play, because I think we had like 4 or 5 starting center backs from different teams, all college, pros, everyone coming in. Just what was your mindset coming into that squad?
Yeah, I mean, you come out of college and you're one of the top picks, and you come in, you're like, all right, man, I'm going to come in and play right away, and this is how it's going to be. And you just think it's going to go on this trajectory constantly, and that's just not how it works. And you come in, and I got to sit behind you and Jeff Park and learn from these 2 veteran guys who have been around the league and great players. And so it was one of those things where I was definitely humbled. I went down to play for the Richmond Kickers, I think, for the first game of the season, which I wasn't happy about at that time. But
y'all won. You helped them win 3-1.
We won. Yeah, no problem. That was great. Went down to Richmond. I ended up punching my car and denting my car. So I was very upset that I had to do that. But it was something that I needed to learn, and that nothing was going to be given to me, and that I had to earn it. So and then I got to learn from you guys, and it was one of those things where I just always had to be ready. And if something happened, then I was ready to get on the field. But like my entire career, I was a little bit of a late bloomer constantly. And so I needed time to adjust to the professional life and being a professional soccer player. And I think sitting behind both of you guys was a great experience for me, because I needed that, and I needed to learn, and I needed to learn how to take care of myself.
Yeah, I also thought it was really good. We had a couple volatile guys that played forward, right? And I think that, you're kind of like me in that you bring it every practice, and it's tough. It was tough for Eddie and for Fabi when you're constantly winning the ball. And I remember, they're trying to line you up and hit you. And it was one of those where, even I remember Eddie saying, Bernie's good. Like, Bernie should be in there. And you don't usually have that. One, it's Eddie who speaks his mind, and no one's going to tell him otherwise. But I also thought it was a pretty good compliment, where at first he was, they were, like I said, they were lining you up, kicking you, hitting you, things like that. But then I think you kind of won them over, where it was like, look, I'm not trying to hurt you guys. I'm just not going to make it easy on you either.
Right. Yeah. And that was an amazing luxury to have, right, as a rookie coming in and playing against guys like him and Fabian Espindola, and competing with them every day in practice. And I felt like I was just lucky to come into that situation where it was a super veteran team, right? Like you, Jeff, Davey was there, and then we had another solid group of guys like Chris Pontius and Chris Rolfe and all these other guys that were just kind of I wouldn't say everyone was a mentor, but they all were kind of looking out for me, I guess, even though I was a rookie. And I mean, I was an older rookie. I was older than some of the guys that had been there for a while, but everyone was looking out for me and had the best interest for me personally, which I, still think to this day.
Yeah, what would you say was harder, waiting for your opportunity or dealing with Davey on like a regular basis?
That's amazing. Uh, they go. That was tough, but no, definitely. I think waiting for my opportunity was
Okay.
hard. I love Davey. People don't know he officiated my wedding, and we're good friends. And congrats to Davey on being inducted in the Casey ring of whatever ring of
Yeah,
fame.
hopefully he listens to this. I don't know if he does. If he does, we love you, Davey. For those that are watching this, I know most of you are listening. I'm wearing a ridiculous cat shirt. This is for Catter Day, meaning we didn't get a lot of Catter Days as professional soccer players. We had to turn it into Kitty Cat Sunday. But that was the California crew. We had Sean Franklin. You didn't give him a shout out, but
Oh, Sean, my man.
I know that you love Sean, Chris Pontius, and Steve. We kind of were the Northern Virginia crew, where we would meet up and watch football and hang out on Saturdays or Sundays if our schedule allowed it. And so this is in honor of you, Steve, that I brought this out. I can't go any lower because it shrank and my belly hangs out now. So
It's a great conversation starter. I'll tell you
that's
that.
right. Yeah, it is a great one, and we had a lot of fun. I'm not sure you taught me about like slacklining and beer dye, and I'm not sure if I taught you anything worth talking about. But
You taught me how to grill. You taught me how to grill. Like,
yeah, that's right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's good. Cooking, I'll take that. That's
Yeah.
a good life
That's an
skill.
easy one. What do you mean?
Back to your first year. So you end up, part of it was definitely earned. The other part was some injury stuff. You get your shot. You end up having a great, great first year. You were, up for rookie of the year. I think Tesho Akindele ended up getting that, but, I feel like that really set you up for the belief that you were the guy, and really you were the guy after that. I mean, it was, you were always partnered with different people. You had the head injuries that we talk about, but you kind of go on to become the Iron Man. You dominate in the air. You're still dominating in the air. I saw they just released the stats, aerial duels and things like that. But just talk a little bit about how the transition goes from, I'm punching my car because I'm not playing to I'm kind of a mainstay in the team.
Yeah, I think it was, one of those things I realized that, you compete every day in practice and there's always someone trying to take your job. And the more that you play, no one else can show that they're going to, take your job away from you. And that's kind of my mindset every day still. I mean, I'm getting older, but, my mindset is I'm going to do the best I can in practice and in every game and to make sure that no one's taking my job because I love playing and I love playing every minute of the game. So that's a big deal to me. And I was lucky enough to be partnered with you for 5 years. And I got to learn learn from you, and you took me under your wing and showed me, I think, when people looked at the way that we played soccer, we just defended the box and I learned a lot of defensive principles from you because it was, a lot about positioning, and you don't necessarily have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the strongest because I'm not the fastest. I'm not the strongest. And neither were you, but you're a defender of the year. And, we worked well together. And I feel like I learned a lot of positional things that I needed to make sure that I could sustain the correct level of play in this league. So I thank you for that because, I don't think I'd be where I am today without you.
I appreciate that. I think your continued success is great. Obviously rooting for you. When you did have that success, you get the All-Star nod there. Then you have the big thing for any player, right, is represent your country. You've played 11 games for the national team. Talk to us a little bit about getting called in. You played in World Cup qualify. Like, you didn't just get called into like the January camp. You've actually called into, I call it the big tournaments and the World Cup qualifiers, the Copa America. Talk to us a little bit about, we kind of joked about Jurgen earlier, but he clearly liked you and you were an important piece of what he was doing.
Yeah, I thought that, it's the best thing to put on, that jersey and to represent your country and to sing the national anthem, before the game. And, I can't thank, Jurgen enough for, basically trusting me to play me in some of these important games that, maybe I didn't feel like I was ready to like start in them, but, he trusted me and, we ended up winning the majority of the games that I got to play in, which was awesome. So, Yeah, I mean, that was the best experience of my life, and getting to go to Copa America was awesome. It was in the States, which is cool, and you got to travel around and play some of the best teams in the world. So that was amazing, and yeah, I'm just thankful enough to be able to play for them.
Yeah, and I think you lost in the semis to Argentina. Was that here in Houston?
Yeah, that was no, that was in that was in Houston. That was in Houston. We lost
Okay.
them. Messi had a nice free kick.
The free kick, yeah.
I got subbed in, and he did me up pretty good that game. So.
Pisano doesn't want us to remember that one, but
Yeah.
The highlight there for me was you. I think it's funny. A game against Iceland, right? You get an assist, and everyone's just like, "That's awesome," right?
Yeah.
And then you go on and score a game winner. Would you say, two-part question? Would you say that was the best goal of your career?
It was definitely the most. Yeah, I mean, this sounds crazy. It was the most exciting for me. I didn't start that game. I subbed on at halftime. Yeah, kind of let in a goal right when I got subbed in, and then assisted one, and then basically scored in the 90th minute, and that was in California. And my grandmother flew out, my mom was there, my sister, and all my friends. So I probably had like 30 people at that game, and to do it in that fashion, score the goal in like the 90th to win the game was pretty awesome.
And follow-up question: did you get a steak after that game?
I don't know if I got a steak. I don't know. I definitely had a beer or two.
The Peggy promise didn't come through.
Yeah.
But it's when Gam Gam's there, you gotta take what you got, right?
That's right.
So back to DC. You eventually take over as captain from me. I would like to imagine. Let me just ask. So when Wayne Rooney came in, this is kind of a joke, but it's not really. When Wayne Rooney came in, did he give you the Captain Phillips, or was that just reserved for me?
No, that was great. He was, you know what? I kind of knew it was happening. Ben basically was like, "Hey, look, this is what's going to happen. Wayne's going to come in. He's probably going to be the captain." And then Wayne came up to me and was like, "Hey, man, like, this is kind of the situation, like, ownership and, everyone, basically wants." And I was like, "Dude, yeah, you're the man.
Yeah, you can have it." Well, the Captain Phillips reference is Stephen, when he became captain, for those that haven't seen the movie, he says to Tom Hanks, he says, "I am the captain now." And Steve told me that, and that was kind of the changing of the guard.
Oh, man.
And it's pretty easy when you're not playing to give that one up. So, but it was pretty cool. You got to open a new stadium. That's I've still never been to that stadium outside of the groundbreaking. I'd like to come, but I'm only going to come when I know it's open, and I get to go walk around and do whatever I want. And I think that's happened now. So rest in peace to RFK. But talk to it's hard to not talk about your time with Wayne, because in the world of soccer, he is one of the mega stars. And not only was he your teammate, but he was also your roommate and also your friend. For those listening that can't get enough of Wayne Rooney, just talk a little bit about what that was like for you to really be around, one of the world's biggest superstars.
Yeah, it's crazy because he comes in and, it's everyone's kind of, in shock and awe. And of course you are, it's Wayne Rooney. He's, one of the best to ever play. But he was just one of the guys, really. I mean, he just wanted to be part of the team. He wanted to do everything the same as all the guys. You remember riding from, RFK Stadium to the practice field in those vans. He would be sitting on the floor in the van with the rest of the, some academy kids, and just be kind of gabbing it up back there or whatever. And, he just,
it's good to see things improve after I left.
Yeah, he just wanted to be one of the guys, and so that was the biggest thing. And we got along really well. Like you mentioned, we were roommates, and this was before I had children, and his family had moved back to England because of the kids' schooling, and so we would golf and go and meet up for dinner a lot. And this was while my wife was pregnant, so she was just wanted to be home and relax. And I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with him, and we still stay close. And this last off season, I actually got the chance to go out and visit him, and stay with him out in there and in England, and I actually caught a Liverpool game. But it was just one of those things where he said, if you're going to go to a game, go to a Liverpool game.
Did he know about Manchester United ruining your childhood final?
I don't think I ever told him that. He would probably like to know that. He would love
it. For those that don't know, Steve was a part of a foursome in DC that golfed every week. Some of the joys of being a pro athlete is you'd get one day off a week, usually, not always, but he had a foursome that always went. I occasionally would fill in, but one of the big things that group always talked about was just the Masters, and I think you had a pretty cool experience, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us about the Masters?
Yeah, we so Wayne is friends with Rory McIlroy, and Wayne had always wanted to go to the Masters, but he'd never been in the States for it. And he's like, look, we're going to do anything we can to get there. I'm like, I'm in. I'm coming with you. Like, you got to take it from me. Like, let's do it. And we actually had a game in Colorado the Saturday night before Sunday Masters, and we got like weather delayed, and we missed our flight to get out there. So we did everything we could. We basically bought last minute tickets and got to the Masters on the Sunday afternoon to see Tiger's last 4 holes and watch Tiger win the Masters in 2019, which is maybe one of the most epic Masters of all time. And I was lucky enough to be there and be on the 18th green. I can't see anything from there because there's like crowds of people, but I was there. So it was awesome. It was something I'll never forget.
All right. Well, I've asked you some fluffy questions. Now let's talk about going through some coaching changes. You've seen Ben come and go, and then, or not come, but you saw him go, and then Lasada comes and goes. What have you talked to the guys about? Like, what's your message to the team been, and focusing on what you can control?
Yeah, it's basically, it's always hard going through a coaching change, whether it be the beginning of the season, the end of the season, or, in off season. And this one just happened to be in the beginning of the year. And it's one of those things where you basically have to regroup and just be like, all right, we have, basically 3/4 of the season left to play. And, we got to make something of it and make a push because, we're a team. We're got to come together. And right now we're rallying around Chad, who's been doing a great job. And he's got a good staff behind him, and basically the guys are, we're all on board and we're ready to rock for the rest of the season. But yeah, it's always difficult going through those, how every season is, it's ebbs and flows. And this just happened to be the beginning of the year. But we know there's, a lot of, maybe 20 games left to be played. And so, yeah, it's just about coming together in those tough moments. And I think the guys have. I mean, Chad, like I said, has done a great job bringing the group together. We're taking a lot of, Hernan's, beliefs or ideology and implementing into Chad's system. So it's been good. It's a give and take of both worlds, right?
Yeah. Well, go again from, I appreciate you willing to talk about that. I hope I didn't put you in an uncomfortable spot there. Let's talk about something I know will make you uncomfortable. Talk to the people about the different sports halls of fame you've been, or the halls of fame you've been inducted into so far in your career.
Oh man. Let's see. I've been inducted into the Greater Washington Jewish Hall of Fame. Out here. That happened, I think, in 2017, I believe.
It did, and I think they gave you a yarmulke, right?
They did give me one. I haven't worn it, but
see, I see the cool guitar on the wall. I don't know why you haven't framed the yarmulke and put that somewhere for your family to see.
You know what? I did a lot to the basement down here. I don't, I've been working on, a little bit of the man cave. I have like a small portion of the house that's dedicated for me. It's overtaken with toys, but that's it. Neither here nor there.
But there was one recently, right? I think in the pandemic is in California, right?
Yeah, so Southern California Jewish Hall of Fame. I wasn't able to attend that obviously because it was during the pandemic, and we're normally during season anyways. But yeah, it's an honor to be inducted into both. It's been amazing.
Well, I know you're into visualization, and so it's like I want you to visualize more halls of fame. So in 5-10 years when we have you on again and you're retiring, we talk about all the other halls of fame.
We'll say 10 years.
Okay, 10 years. So we go 10 years. Let's talk about what's next for Bernie. Obviously, got to keep trying to win trophies, keep playing good ball. I know before we'd always talk about Steve was always, a very smart guy, took education seriously. Last I had talked to you about this, you'd want to become an athletic director. Have those desires changed? And if so, what's next for Stephen Birnbaum, to get to your ducks in a row?
Yeah, I think that's, it's obviously something that, as you come closer towards the end of your career, you start to think about more and more, and you want to be more prepared for it. And, I've thought about a bunch of things. I think I'm going to throw my hat at a bunch of things in these next, 6 years, 7 years, before I retire, and make sure that it's something that I want to do and something that I think I could be successful in. So whether that be, I've been in sports my entire life. So I could see myself going into all facets of sports, whether it be like you mentioned, an athletic director. I think I'm trending more towards staying in soccer and, working hopefully, with a front office, or, the end goal would be to be a president of a team one day. I mean, I think that's
or an owner.
That would be great too. But I think you need some coin for that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think if you set the bar high, you can shoot for the stars and land on the moon maybe. But
just inspirational.
I try.
Just inspirational.
I could also see me going into the business world. So I think there's a lot of things in play. I think I do end up, eventually want to get my master's in business, and something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's good to have these conversations. It's people like you that I'm going to talk to.
I like to bring it up because I know that people in the industry listen to this. So I always put the idea in their head. I think a lot of times guys don't put, they're uncomfortable talking about, they think it's like I have a foot out the door, and it's like, no, I'm still going to go 7-8 more years. But it's sometimes those people need to, I've always liked Bernie. I think he'd be a great guy. Let me reach out to him, or at least think about him for those jobs. So
yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Like, I think it's all about connecting. I started a LinkedIn a couple of years ago, and it was just like, I would reach out. We have an alumni group from Berkeley, and I would just reach out to random business guys who used to play for, and these are guys who played maybe in the 70s. And it was like, they're big time business people in San Francisco. And I just wanted to pick their brains about, how they got their start, or what they did, or what they're looking for in, maybe a ex-professional athlete, or what execs and businesses are looking for. Because I have no problem going into, I guess the real world and doing, something besides soccer.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Steve is on Instagram. He rarely posts, but when he does, if you notice, he's always doing something weird with his hands or his body. He's at Birnbaum 15. We didn't talk about your number, but you can find that online. He's been number 15 like his whole life, and that's kind of weird to keep your number through the whole thing, just circumstantial. But last but not least, I joke around, and it's not really a joke, but I always say you're a man of the people. But you really are. And I found a lot of stuff on you from high school into college on your community involvement. You're always involved in the community when I played with you in DC. But let's, a big focus of what you've been spending your energy on lately. And I mean, the whole time I was there, so starting back in 14, which I think that's 8 years now, you've been working with the Special Olympics. Talk to us a little bit about your involvement there, and kind of, I'm sure everyone knows what it is, but I think it's important to highlight those great stories, especially if it brings light to something as important as Special Olympics.
Yeah, I'm kind of taken towards, working with the disabled, or, people who are less fortunate. And so I did that stuff in high school, and worked with Wolfpack, where you had lunch with, the kids who are in high school and, weren't as fortunate as us. And then when I got to DC, I just kind of took to it more, and became, more involved with Special Olympics DC, to be running soccer camps with them, or, getting people more involved. And then when I met my wife, Jean, her sister is actually disabled. And so it kind of, struck a chord with me even more to get involved. And at one point I was the commissioner of their soccer league. And it's basically just about involving everyone and being inclusive of the group. And soccer and sports is, I think, one of the best ways to do that. So we've been raising funds to just get awareness out there, but also to just support these guys and these kids to be able to play in these games. I guess we're doing integrated games, and just to get the word out there, because it's an important an important aspect of our game to just be inclusive.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I say, although you occasionally lose your razor, you've never lost your ability to be a great person. So good on you. Good on Peggy. I know she's going to listen. Hi, Peggy.
She will be listening.
But really, I just wanted to thank you, Stephen, for coming on the pod today. I hope everyone has enjoyed this as much as I do. And we will see you guys again, or hear me again in the next podcast.
My man. Love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Thank you for listening to Play by Players. Visit playbyplayerspod.com for more episodes or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This has been a production of the MLSPA. Learn more at mlsplayers.org.